Just how much money can you make running an online video game store? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is going to be a little bit of a technical video. It's going to be a real breakdown, but I feel like it's going to provide some really good value to some of you guys out there who are really wondering, is it worth it to sell video games online? Should I get into selling video games, and how much you could expect to make by doing so? I've been doing this for some time now, a couple years at least, maybe 4, maybe 5 years. So it's been a while. Over this time, prices of video games have changed so much. They've fluctuated, the sell price of them, of course, as you might expect, and also the buy price of them. I mean, nowadays it's much more expensive to get into this and to buy video games. That being said, there's still many ways to jump into selling video games online. I'm going to break down a couple ways that you could go about it if you're just starting out, and then a couple ways you can go about it if you're a little bit more advanced. But in today's video, I'm going to hop into a spreadsheet that I created breaking down the total of what you could expect to make part-time running a video game store, because that's sort of what I do here. Although I spend a lot of time on it, it really is a part-time gig for me. So I wanted to break that down with regards to how much time, again, you could expect to be spending on it and how much money you could expect to get for that time. So without any further ado, I think we should jump right into the computer behind me. I have a screen recorder set up this time, so you guys are welcome, but we'll get into that and then we'll break down some of the numbers and what you could look to make when starting an online video game store. Let's do it. Over at my computer now, guys, right off the bat though, I want to mention that this is going to be more of a technical, sort of theoretical example, but I actually have a very practical example of how you can do this in a video coming out on Friday, where I actually go ahead and I list 100 games in 1 week on eBay. So stay tuned to that video. It's going to be awesome. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell so you don't miss it when it comes out. And that's going to break down how you can actually do it in a very practical way where you can actually watch me doing what I'm talking about right here. All right, with that all said though, let's jump right into the numbers. So what we got here might look like a little bit of a strange spreadsheet, but it's actually a fairly straightforward one. I want to go over a couple assumptions here really quickly before we go into things. This is a part-time gig, and this is expected to take about 2 to 3 hours a day in total work. Maybe 4 hours if you're really pushing it in terms of sourcing and shipping things, but really it should only be taking you roughly 3 hours a day. So keep that in mind throughout all of this, and you can obviously expand this if you would like to, if you had more time to spend on this, but let's just say theoretically that you spend about 3 hours a day on this. You'll see here that I have selected 18 a day. That means 18 items a day. We're going to assume that your store has a 15% sell-through rate, and we're going to assume that you work 20 days a month. That's 4 weeks. Assuming that to be the case, you'll notice here in month 1, you're going to get 360 listings up. With that, you're going to have 54 items sold at a 15% sell-through rate. Not bad. This chart essentially then shows your ending inventory, which would be 306 games, the new listings that you'll put up the next month, which is always going to be 360, and then your inventory throughout that month. So that would be 666 items. Then you sell at 15% of that, 100 of those items, leaving you with 566 items at the end of that month, and you start again in the next month. What does this chart tell us and why is it relevant? Well, it tells us what the maximum amount of items that we can have listed on the store is at a 15% sell-through rate. This matters because if we put in all this effort, but we can't have enough items up to actually sustain a regular monthly income that's going to be worth it for the time that we put in, it's not going to be valuable to even do this store. So I want to show you guys this chart here because it kind of breaks that down. Essentially, assuming that you continue to list 360 items every single month, over the course of about, and I'm scrolling all the way down here, over the course of about 18 months or 2 years, you're going to hit a point where you're sort of just breaking even on the listings. This means that you're going to start selling every single month at 15% sell-through rate, the exact same amount that you're listing every single month. You can see here, and I didn't go all the way down to 26 months or 36 months or whatever, because it's just going to go up by 1 or 2 numbers here at the end because it gets very sort of tight in the numbers, and I won't go into why it does that. But it has 360 items still getting listed every single month. We've got 2271 in inventory at this point listed, and we're selling about 340 to 350 games every single month. So keeping that in mind, that's quite a volume to do. First of all, let's sort of break that down. 2,000 listings active on eBay, not very hard to do, to be honest. I mean, again, it looks like here you can do it in about 2 years. For me personally, I could probably amp that up, do 40 games a day and do it in under a year. So it wouldn't necessarily be a super huge thing to do. It's doable is what I'm trying to say. Anybody could do this. The absolute hardest thing that you're going to have to deal with when trying to set this kind of store up is actually purchasing that many games. You have no idea how hard it will be to find 2,200 games. I mean, even in lots of 100 from whatever sort of auction sites that you use, you're still going to have to purchase over 22 lots throughout a year. If there's 3 lots ending every week, that's still going to be quite a bit of time to accumulate that inventory. Obviously, in some way, you're not listing 2,200 every single month, but you do still have to accumulate that over the course of 2 years, which I think is pretty possible when you look at it that way. 360 items a month, though, that's about 3 lots, 4 lots maybe that you had to buy every single month, which again, totally doable. I've done it myself many times. So that's definitely easy to do, and that will give you that solid 20 games a day in the work week to list. So you keep keep that up, you get 2 years done and you're getting about 340 sales, 350 sales a month. You're gonna have to leave some time to pack all of those, assuming that you're a relatively fast packer. You could probably get it done in about 20 minutes a day. It comes out to about 11 games that you would actually be selling per day. So as long as you kind of deal with maybe 10, 20 games every, couple days and ship them out, you could do this. I should mention though, the video games are very easy to ship. They just need a bubble mailer. You package them up, send them out with letter mail. You don't have to line up or anything. You don't even have to go through SnapShip. You just have to print out the labels and go. It's a very simple process. Heading back up to the top of the sheet though, this is where we're actually going to break down how much money we could expect to make them with that formula. First sort of row here, and look at these as rows, row number 2. We've got listings per day, which is assuming that we're doing 18 listings per day. The first 2 rows here are actually monthly calculations, but I'll go into the first one here. So if we're listing 18 games a day at an average list price with shipping of $9.49, which is low. My average list price thing is like 11 something. So this is on the lower side of things with shipping. That means that you're hitting right around $170.82. You'll see in the video that comes out on Friday, I don't quite hit that high because it was a little bit of a lower end lot. But easily that should be able to be hit. And I've definitely done some bigger days than that with, 20 items a day, which is what I'm doing right now. Moving on though, that gives you $854 in total weekly listings. And like we talked about, 360 items in a total monthly listing, or in other words, $3,500 listed a month, roughly. Pretty good, guys. First month, you have $3,400 worth of things listed. We'll get into some of the larger numbers here later in terms of how many, if you did it over the course of, the full 24 months. But let's break it down here. So of that $3,400, you get on a 15% sell-through rate, you sell 54 items, and that brings in $512 in revenue in your first month. And your spend to get this, assuming that you're spending, $2 to $3 a game, you're probably spending about $900 on your first month or so to get those 360 games, maybe a little bit more. So, you're not going to be profitable in your first month. You got to be aware of that. Anyway, $512 in revenue that first month. Your cost of goods sold on that, I wrote it out as $108, assuming that you pay $2 a game. Definitely still possible in today's market if you're resourceful and really looking around. But when you're trying to get into the volume sort of metrics, you're probably going to be aiming sort of closer to $3, maybe even over $3, depending on the value of the games. And we talk about that a lot when selling these sort of things, and it kind of relates back to the wholesale niche, but we're always talking about average buy price, ABP, and average sell price, ASP, and the difference between the two. That's where the profit lies. And if you can find a lot with an average sell price of, let's say, for example, $10 and an average buy price of $3, well, you can do the math there and figure that, you're making, $7 or so a game, 100 games at $700 profit. Obviously, you got your eBay fees and PayPal fees on that, so maybe it comes down to $500, but even so, you can do the math pretty simply. Let's keep going though here, because we've got some PayPal fees on top of that, the eBay fees, then you've got your shipping per item. Keep in mind, this sell-through rate is with the shipping included. So your total shipping cost is going to be a little less, because you're going to be able to get away with a couple of those items at $1.80. Probably about half of them actually will go for less than that. So you could either charge down on that to increase sales, or you could keep the difference and make a little bit of extra money there. Let's call it 174 though. Really, it's gonna be closer to maybe 125. We've got cost of goods sold on that of about $390.58. On the 512 or whatever it was, we're now down to about $121 in gross profit. Assuming you're paying for an eBay store, that's gonna be $25. You may have a couple other expenses in there. If it's a real business, you're renting space, you're paying hydro, Wi-Fi, whatever that might be, that's gonna go into those extra expenses. And overall, yes, that will add up, but let's just break down here. Hold on, it's just month 1. Let's break down what we make in the future before we start calling this a bad idea. $96.88 profit in the first month. Again, you're not really profitable because you spent more than you've made, but you are profitable with the items that you sold. You can see here though, gross profit margin 23%, net profit margin 18%. We're talking about very slim profit margins. And again, you have to think of this business like wholesaling. When you're purchasing products for very cheap, it's a volume game. You have to sell things. You have to sell a lot of things to make any sort of significant money, right? So even at the scale that we're going here, which is a much smaller scale, 20% margins, you do have to try to scale things up. And I think 20 games a day, to be honest, for the 4 weeks in the month is sort of the minimum that you have to be doing to make any sort of money or make this worth your time. That being said, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, but it is profitable and I've been able to do it. If you like things that are consistent, so you're not always going out to different, Value Village hoping that you find things, or if you like things that are very sort of streamlined and you don't have to think too much about them. I mean, listing games is fairly straightforward. I can pull them all into an SD card, put them up on eBay. I won't go through this all in this video, but there are a ton of videos on my channel that show this. This is not a super hard thing to do. Anyway, real quick, let's assume that you double that. 40 listings per day. We can look through things here. Average list price, $9.49 with shipping on top. So the exact same assumptions. That doubles the daily list price roughly. doubles the weekly list price, goes all the way down here, doubles our monthly list price. That gives you about 800 listings a month. That means that you're selling through at 15%, about 120 of them, $1,100 or so in your total sale price. Everything is essentially doubled here, guys. Cost of goods sold, $240, your PayPal fees, eBay fees. Just go over here to the total cost of goods sold, $867, but it does leave you with a gross profit of $270.85. Again, assuming you have a couple fees in there, you're left with $245 net. You're going to be making more with about 40 games. I like to think it takes me about 2 hours to list 20 games, about an hour for every 10. Once you take into account finding the game, shipping the game, testing the game, listing the game, the entire process, about an hour for every 10 games. So you do the math on that, 40 games a day, about 4 hours of work. You can definitely pull it off. Not too bad part-time, so I wanted to throw that in there in case you were going to do that. Gross margin stays the same, but the net profit margin goes up. Why is that? Well, that's because you're still paying the exact same for your rent, heat, hydro, equipment, whatever it might be. You're still paying the same for your eBay store. So the more that you can get up on that in the month, the better net margin you're gonna have. So now to figure out what this means, if you did it on a monthly scale, you got really serious about it, let's head down to month 18, where we've grown up a store with 2,200 games, 2,271 games in total. Here we are here, guys. There's our total monthly listings of 2,271 games. That means that the list price in total for a month where you're working like this is gonna be about $21,574.50. That's, again, taking into account all the games that you've listed over the last 18 months in this case, can be easily cut down to a year, maybe even cut down to half a year if you're really pushing at 80 games a day. What is that, like, it's about 8 hours, guys. 8-hour day. If you're really pushing it, you can do this in 6 months, and then you can build it even bigger. Anyway, there we go, $21,000 in monthly list price. We have a selling through rate of 15% again, and this is, again, assuming maybe a little bit of a low sell-through rate. I like to think 15% is pretty reasonable, but I think if you pushed it and you got your listings really promoted up there, you could maybe even see a 20% monthly sell-through rate, which would be insane. But again, mine sits right around 15%, so there you go. Anyway, that's $3,200 a month in sales. Now, you're thinking, well, that's not great, but you just forgot that I mentioned that this was based on part-time. We're still only doing 20 listings a day right now. So now you're thinking $3,200 part-time in revenue, count me in. Well, hold on a second. Don't come in just yet because we got to get down to the net profit. The cost of goods on that alone is $851. So that's quite a bit. Then you've got a couple fees here for eBay and PayPal, your shipping per item, total shipping of $1,100. Total cost of goods is about $2,600, which leaves you with a gross profit of about $601.25. You got your eBay store in there, 25 bucks. You got $576 in net profit at the end of the day. You want to make an extra 500 bucks a month? There you go right there. But we're going to talk about some ways here that I use to increase that to actually make way more than that. Right now, I do the math on that, guys, 576. That's taking you about 40 hours a month to get that. So again, that's assuming that you're spending about 2 hours a day for 20 days. That's 40 hours. That's going to leave you with just under $15 average, minimum wage kind of deal. So you're not really going to want to be making that one doing this. And I'm going to show you right now how you're going to increase that. Anyway, you can see here, gross profit margin fell a little bit. That's because I used some different numbers for this calculation. And net profit fell just a little bit as well. But again, I'm using some conservative numbers here. So let's go back to the start. The two very critical things here is the total monthly list price. This is including shipping. So $950. That is, pretty average. I know I got more on the average side for sure. That's assuming that the average sell price on a game is about $6. However, my average sale price per game is usually at minimum $8. So if we take that $8, we add our $350 shipping on top of that, we're talking $9, $10, $11.50. Now we see that the sale price has gone up because we've got some higher value games, which again, this isn't hard to do. That's what my average sale price is. Then we go to our cost of goods sold. If you can get those games for about $250 a piece, which is again, not unreasonable, you can definitely get, $7.50, $8 sale price, ASP, for a buy price of $250. That's totally reasonable, especially if you're buying locally. Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, off your friends. These are some of the industry secrets. You can get $250 a game. You could even get less than that. I've paid just over the last couple days for lots of 100 games at $1.50 sale or buy prices, online auctions. This is stuff that's insane. I've purchased loose disc lots that were around $1.10 a game. I mean, this is totally still possible in today's market if you're resourceful. Immediately you see that price jump up to $1,100 net profit for the same amount of work. This is exactly what I'm doing in my store. This is the exact model that I use. I feel like at this point in the video, it's going on for quite a long time, but I wanted to make this video a little bit longer and explain things because now we've lost all the people that are like not interested in this because I think they've just sort of like forgotten the numbers or whatever. You guys are still watching this right now, are serious about this, which is cool because I feel like those are the people that I really want to provide this insights and value to. Now we're talking though, 40 hours a week, we're talking almost $30 an hour reselling, essentially doing wholesale stuff. You basically never have to leave the house except for when you're dropping your games in a red box and you can have your stamps delivered, you can have your items delivered to you. If you really want to hustle and make a little bit more money, drop that average buy price and go out and source on Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji, you can leave and go and find some better deals. But especially when we're stuck down in quarantine like this, guys, I mean, this is pretty sweet income. And that's part-time. We could double that to easily upwards of $2,200 a month if we are just doing it 40 games a day. That's again only about 4 hours a day. Part-time, $2,200 a month. Full-time, if we're doing the full 8 hours, we can multiply that by 4. We're looking at just over about $5,000 or so. I guess 4,500-ish, somewhere around there. Again, you drop that average buy price, you're over 5,000 bucks. So pretty sweet for a full-time job or about 8-hour days. And that's selling video games out of your garage or out of your basement. Listen, it's a lot of work to find these lots. It's a lot of work just to do the whole thing. Like, don't think of this as a super easy way to make money. This is not a, Shopify video where in 24 hours you're gonna be a millionaire. This is something that you have to work on for a long time. But if you've seen what I'm doing, you like seeing, or you like what I've been doing, and you wanna do this yourself and replicate it, I've literally provided all of the numbers right here so you can understand what you're getting into before you jump into things. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I wanted to go through all those numbers, break everything down, and hopefully you guys found some value in this. This was a little bit of a longer video for a small little spreadsheet like this, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything and you guys could get some value out of this. If you have any questions, first of all, I'd recommend checking out my channel because I made tons of videos about selling video games online and selling other things on eBay. So if you have any questions or things like that, definitely be sure to leave them down below if I haven't already made a video about them, because I'm sure other people will find those valuable as well. I would also like to mention there's a couple things that I did leave out of this video. For example, what happens with stuff that doesn't sell, some stale inventory that you may have to liquidate. But again, with the numbers that we're looking at here, it doesn't even factor in too much when I do the math. And I can maybe explain that in a future video, but I didn't want to make this one too long and go into that when it wasn't really an important factor, assuming that about 90 to 95% of the stuff does sell. Sometimes it takes time. That's totally cool. With that 50% sell-through rate, we allow for that, so that still works out fine. Just thought I would throw that in there at the end, but yeah, hopefully you guys, again, found some value in this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to go down below, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Again, leave your comments, questions down below, concerns, whatever you think. Let me know down below what you think. But yeah, I will see you guys all in the next video.